Okay, I'm going to go back to doing guideposts at least this week. Because the conversation that we've been having as Living with Intention over the last couple of weeks, that is, in this period since the retreat, there's some things that have been coming up for me that I think are worthy of some more intention about how we lean into this. And we can do this on Sunday nights, but we may also turn it into a conversation on Thursdays because I want to get Thursday night started up again this coming week. One of the things that I have noticed since the retreat was that we have observed, several of us who were on the retreat experienced a kind of personal transformation as what they have reported was the experience of a deeper intimacy with each other. That is, a depth of intimacy in our relationships with others allows for our own personal transformation. And I would say our personal transformation allows for greater depth of intimacy. But that's a part of what I want to explore. Is this causal? Are we able to create greater depth of intimacy by our own transformation, or is it the transformation is a result of that intimacy, and it's probably both? Second thing that I've been noticing is that we've started talking about how is it that we as a community are doing something that is of benefit to the larger world. There's some sense of us having or developing or needing a kind of mission in which we're going to do things that are of benefit to the world around us. Those two things came together for me last week when we were talking about the problems of social isolationism, that kind of emotional distance that people feel, that seems to be in some sense related to the use of social media, which is quite ironic. We spend a lot of time being very much connected to what's happening in the world. Most of us are carrying in our pockets these little devices that allow us to communicate with anybody, anywhere, not anybody, but most people around the globe now have access to a device that allows them to communicate with most anybody else on the globe. Wow, that's amazing. And yet, there is this sense of emotional isolation. Because I will postulate here, I will suggest to you that I think that's because while we have a great breadth of opportunity in terms of who we communicate with, those connections don't necessarily have very much depth. It's possible, I think, using electronic media to be able to go deep, but we don't necessarily learn how to do that from social media. As a matter of fact, there's some things built into the algorithms of social media that keep it shallow. And so we don't feel connected, and so we feel emotionally isolated. There are a set of skills, I would suggest to you, that people learn that allows them to be able to develop deeply intimate relationships, which are largely things that we learn from our environment, from the culture in which we grew up, and thus primarily from our families of origin. If we were fortunate enough to grow up in such a family, a family that where that deeper intimacy was practiced, we learned how to do it. We just sort of grew up with it. But most of us did not. And so it becomes a later task in our lives. It's certainly true for me. My very wonderful family growing up didn't exercise much depth of intimacy, at least as I was able to experience it. And so for me, learning how to be in deeply intimate relationships, being in a committed relationship over time, is something that I've had to learn as an adult. And so as we learn how to do these things, we also discover that it's not just that I need to have these skills. I need to be in relationship with others who have these skills so that together we can create relationships which have these skills, are able to manifest these qualities. And so this is a complex dynamic problem which can be addressed by learning a specific set of skills and practicing them in our relationships with each other. Is it possible for us, as living with intention, as we are people on this pilgrimage together, to identify what are those skills how do we learn them? How do we teach them, or at least support their growth in others, such that we and everyone around us is gaining a deeper capacity for a fuller sort of intimacy? Maybe that's our mission. Maybe that's what we can be about in the world, is being able to promulgate the capacity to do this. So I want this to be at least an option for our conversation this Sunday, and probably lean into it even more with more specificity as we move towards next Thursday. All right. Hope to see you Sunday and perhaps next Thursday. Take care.